Hey everybody, it's Paul Sizer here, talking to you from the Print Center in the College of Fine Arts at Western Michigan University. So in this video, I'm going to speak with you a little bit about how to prep and set up a file properly for printing to the Print Center. And we're going to be specifically talking about setting up a file that has been built in InDesign. And while the stuff that I'm going to be showing you is going to be specific to InDesign, the basic concepts of it are things that also will apply to other programs like Adobe Illustrator and also to Photoshop. But I'm going to be speaking more specifically about setting up a file that's built from graphical elements, from type, from image, from vector shapes, and that kind of thing. So what we're taking a look at here is a poster design that is on a 24 by 36 inch dimension document, and we are going to be prepping this to be printed in the Print Center. So in the Print Center we have two different options for papers to print to. We have sheet paper and we have roll paper. So sheet paper are pre-sized, trimmed down sheet sizes that come in standardized sizes, 8.5 by 11, A3 size, which is 11.7 by 16.5 inches, tabloid side, which is 11 by 17, and super A3B paper, which is 13 by 19. But for something like this, which is 24 by 36, that would be printed to one of the roll-fed options that we have for paper. So roll-fed paper means that it's paper that feeds from a roll, but it comes in different varying widths, and then the length can be whatever the length needs to be. So if we know that this is going to be a 24 by 36 inch poster that we're going to be printing out, we will probably print it on a larger size than that, because that's the option that we have. So that said, there's still standardized things that we're going to do to prepare this for printing. So as we're taking a look at this design, we see that there's color that goes right up to the edge and that we want to go to the edge and extend past that edge. So when we're talking about color that goes right to the edge and is intended to be right at the edge, we refer to that as a bleed. So when you're setting up a file to be printed, you want to be able to print past the actual edge of the final size that you want to have this trimmed down to, so that the color that's there extends to that edge and doesn't have a white line or a gap between the edge of the paper and the color. So the way we're going to set that up is by setting up bleeds on this document. So in InDesign, I'm going to go over here to my File menu and go down to Document Setup. And Document Setup is going to give me information about this document that is set up. Surprise. So it's showing us what I've just told you here is that the paper size or the page size is 24 inches by 36 inches. It's showing me information about the margins, which just is an internal measurement. But what we're interested in is this area down here that says bleed and slug. If you're not seeing these things down here, if you just see bleed and slug, just toggle this and it will reveal the bleed section here. So right now the bleed that we have is set to 0, meaning that there is no bleed on this past the edges of the 24 by 36 inch page size. So what the bleed is the bleed is telling InDesign that you're giving it permission to print beyond the edges of the 24 by 36 or whatever the size of your document is. It's giving you the ability to be able to print past the edges of your document size. So generally in standardized printing, a bleed would be 1/8 of an inch, which is 0.125 inches. But for doing large posters like this, and just for ease of use, I would actually suggest making your bleed size a little bit larger than that. I would actually suggest setting it at 1/4 of an inch, which would be 0.25 inches. So the way that I would do that is just in this first box here, highlight that, and I'm going to put in 0.25. And then you can either type that in manually for top, bottom, inside, and outside, or you can just type it in this first box here, go to the end, and click on the little chain icon and it will automatically take those values and propagate them to the other boxes. So now we have our bleed set up so that it equally has 1/4 of an inch all the way around, top, bottom, side to side. So now we have 24 by 36 inches as our page size, and we've extended that, and there's a bleed of 1/4 of an inch on all sides of that paper. So I can go ahead and hit OK. And when I do, what you can notice is that you'll see a faint red line appear out here, which indicates the bleed area. So hit OK. And you can see now there's a faint, as I go up here, there we go. There is a faint red line out here, and that is my bleed area. So again, this is the edge of my paper, and this is my area for bleed. So now that I have my bleed established, I need to go through and take a look at all the things that are extending to the edge that I want to bleed and extend them actually into the bleed area. So what that means is, let me view up in here so we can see a little easier. Taking a look here, this purple area, I'm going to go ahead and extend that out so that the document goes out to the bleed. This black bar that's here, let's scroll up a little bit. And the safest way to actually extend this out so that you don't change the shape of it, so you're just changing the one dimension, is that when I click on this, I get corner anchor points, but I get a center anchor point. And what that allows me to do is just to pull that one dimension and not change or not touch the height or width of this. It's just extending the width out. So that's a nice safe way to do it. So I've extended the bleed on the purple there. I've extended the bleed on the black part of that box. Just scroll down, take a look at this. That's extended out there. This black box, again, just go here, pull it off so that it goes out to the red line. So now that black box there is extending out to my bleed. And then go over here to this side, do the same thing. So I'm going to click on that box, the purple, extend that out to my bleed area, move up here, the other side of this black box, I'm going to extend that one out to the bleed. So now as I take a look at this, I can see that I have my page size, which is the white background here. That's still 24 by 36. I've got my bleed area that extends out here, and I can see that every color that I want to have go up to that edge and not have any gap goes to that edge and extends into the bleed. So now the other thing that I'm going to do to prep this file for sending it in to be printed is that I'm going to take care of the fonts. So right now the fonts that are on this document are still live editable fonts, and I can see that by, if I double click on this text file, or this text box rather, that's a selectable font that I can go in and I can change, that I can alter. The same thing with this, the word excellent. These are still editable type. It's still type that can be selected and made changes to. The same word with the word design down here. So to be super safe, and when you're turning in files, kind of again, the things that I'm showing you here are ways that you can change this and alter this file to make it so that it's kind of foolproof to print. So what I would suggest is that if you are designing this file and you're still working on it, to go ahead and keep things like your fonts, keep them still all as editable text. But let's assume that this is something that we are going to send in to print, and we're not going to be making any changes, that this is how I want it to look, that everything is positioned where I want it to be, and that there's nothing that's going to change. There's nothing I'm going to need to edit. The text is 100% correct. It's all in the position I want, and I don't need it to be editable anymore. The way that I can prep that is that I can additionally, what I would suggest actually is for you to take this file that still has the editable text in it. This is still selectable, editable text. And I would suggest actually going up and doing Save As. And this is the name that I have for this, so it's a poster demo print. But I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit to this name. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to the name to indicate to it that I've changed that type to paths or to outlines. So actually I'm just going to add the word outlines to it. You can add whatever you want, but what I'm doing is I'm differentiating between what's called my parent file, which means that the parent file still has editable text in it. It still might have unused layers. It might have extra stuff on the outside. That should be kept there, but I'm making a duplicate of this file by doing save as, and this is the one that I'm going to do things that finalize it and make it so that it doesn't have extra stuff that doesn't need to be there. So I'll go ahead and just save that to my desktop. So now this is my file that I'm doing the prep to send it to print. So again, I've extended things to the bleed. That's fine. What I'm going to do to the type is I'm going to select each of the text boxes. I'm going to go up to type, and I'm going to go ahead and hit this thing here that says create outlines. What that means is what that's going to do is it's going to take this editable type and it's going to convert it to the vector files that create the type and change it into shapes. So it didn't look like it really did anything, but now this is no longer editable text. It's actually the shape of text. These are actually lines, vector forms of the shape of that text. So I'm going to do the same thing to the word excellent there. That's still editable type, so I'm going to do create outlines. That's now shapes. And that's the word design, same thing. Go to type, create outlines, bang. So the thing about this is that now that these are no longer editable fonts, it means that when I turn this into the print center, when this is opened up by one of the print technicians, it won't ask for fonts. It won't ask for, hey, where's this particular font that was being used in here, because I've converted them just to shapes. So what that means is that it's a simpler way for you to turn stuff into us, but it's also a safeguard for you because it means that you don't have something that has editable text that could get moved, that could possibly get reflowed, or could get substituted with another font because you didn't provide the font along with when you turned it in. So, from that standpoint, it's just kind of an insurance policy for you. By converting your fonts to outlines, it means that you aren't, that there's no way that we have to guess what font is being used because everything's just converted to shapes. It makes it so it's goof-proof and it's easier for us to print this out and make it exactly like you want. So at this point right now, this file is pretty much set to go for turning into the print center. Now you do have the option here of being able to provide us the original InDesign file for the print center, and we can print from this. But if you want a kind of an added level of being able to turn this in a way that again makes it kind of bulletproof, I'm going to show you how to set this up as a PDF file, to export it as a PDF file that will additionally add in the crop marks that are needed so that you can trim this out of a larger sheet of paper. Because as I mentioned before, we're going to print this on a slightly larger sheet of paper, and then you'll be chopping this down to the 24 by 36 inch size. So having crop marks on it will be a way that it gives you an opportunity to be able to have those crop marks placed in automatically. So I'm going to show you how to do that now by saving it as a PDF file. So to export this as a PDF file, the way I'm going to show you how to do it is by going over to File and going to PDF Presets, and we're going to define that by, we're going to print this out at press quality, meaning that we want this as high quality as possible. I'm going to go ahead and hit press quality. It's going to ask me what name do I want to have it. Ideally, when you're exporting things, you should always keep them the exact same name of the parent file that they're coming from. So I'm going to export this, and again, I'm just going to save this to my desktop so I can find it easily. Go ahead and hit save. And I'm going to get this secondary box here, and I'm going to take just a quick look at this because this is where you're going to do a few things to, a few little checks that are going to make it so that you have your crop marks automatically built into it. So all you need to do to achieve that is on this little side menu over here, it says General, Compression, and the third toggle down is Marks and Bleeds. So when I click on that, you see that the Marks and Bleeds section gives me the option to add a whole bunch of different stuff here. And you can add all of the printer's marks, which will be crop marks, bleed marks, registration marks, all that kind of stuff. For what we're going to show here, I'm just going to say that we're going to just have you add in crop marks. So I'm going to click that. But I am going to go down here, and because we set up this file to have a bleed in it, we have that 1/4 of an inch, 0.25 inches on all sides. I am going to tell this PDF export to use the information that we put into our bleeds and to incorporate that into this PDF that we're saving out. So I'm going to go ahead and just check the box that says use document bleed settings. And you can see right now that the bleed is seen as 0, meaning that if we exported this to a PDF without checking that, it's just going to export something that will be the 26 or the 24 by 36 inches. But if I click this, it grays it out, but you can see that it included along the information that we put. So in the top, bottom, inside, and outside, it shows it as 0.25 inches. So it's going to include the bleed that we've built into the document alongside when it exports it out, and it's going to add crop marks. So let me go ahead and hit export. Give it a second. And now we can take a look at this PDF. So I'm going to double click on that. And I'm going to move this over just so you can kind of see it. So this might be a little difficult for you to see, but you can see on the edges of this PDF document that I've got here, you can see the little crop marks that are up here. And this is especially important if you have a part of a poster that doesn't have bleed or doesn't have color that extends to the edges. This is showing you the trim marks where the top of your 24 by 36 inch document is. So if we scroll here and go down, and there'll be a small set of crop marks at the bottom, right there, off to the side, on the other side over there, and then also additionally stuff here at the top. But you can see as we're viewing up on this, let me go back to this so it's a little easier to see, that while these are our crop marks, these are the marks that we use to trim this down to the 24 by 36 inch size, our color is extending past that. So when you trim this, you won't have to be super precise about, because the color just goes to that edge, it extends past it. So by lining up your rulers and trimming this, it'll trim this off, and your color will come exactly to the side of the trim, and there won't be any gap, and it'll look perfect. So that's a PDF file that is set up and ready to go to the Print Center for printing out. So as I mentioned, you can turn in InDesign files for us to print from directly. You can save your InDesign file and export it as a PDF file to save to us. Either way works just fine, and we can work with either one. So yeah, I guess that's all we need to talk about. What I will say too is that if I'm going to do just a few small undos here, because if you are sending us a file that in fact does have live type in it, so again this is still live type, if you're sending us something that does have type in it that's still editable type, you will need to do one more step to ensure that we can print this out properly. So this has editable type on it, but we've extended our bleeds. We still have the bleed on here. If I was going to send this into the Print Center, I would need to and I was not going to save it as a PDF file, I would need to package it. And what packaging does is it gathers all of the things that the file needs. If there were scans in here, it would go out, grab those scans, collect them. Packaging will also go out and it will grab all the fonts that you're using and put those into a folder, and make it so it's all one single file that has all of the connected files with it, scans, fonts, everything like that. Let me just go ahead and show you. So let's say we're ready to go. This has my bleeds pulled out. We're all set to go. I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to go down to Package, and it's going to give me an option for packaging. It's going to show that there's one font that's used. It doesn't show any other problems or anything that it sees as being a problem. So I can go ahead and just hit package with this. Publication must be saved. Go ahead and just let it save it. Where do you want to put it? I'm just going to save it to my desktop so I can find it easily. I'm going to check down here. It says it's going to copy fonts. It will copy linked graphics. So if I had scans in here or graphics that were JPEGs or TIFFs or other different types of files that might come from different sources, it's going to collect those as well. And it's also going to generate a PDF file for me automatically. So, and I'm setting this at press quality, so it will actually save it in the way that I want to have it saved. So I'm going to go ahead and hit package, and it will take a second, gather everything, grab the fonts, boom, and now it is on my desktop and in that folder that it just made to my desktop. I'll go ahead and open that up, and you can see that what is in there is there was no scans or links that were in there, but it has a folder that has the fonts that were used in here. So that can be provided, and then it also has an InDesign file. This IDML file stands for InDesign Markup Language, which means it will allow this file to be opened up by an older version of InDesign. And it also has the PDF that is made here. In this instance, if you're packaging this file, this PDF really isn't necessary because you're going to have, if you're packaging this, you want this Print Center to print from your InDesign file. So what I would say is you can go ahead and just trash that PDF file, and just, if you're packaging it and including the fonts, you want us to print from this InDesign file. So that's the one that you need to go to. So this folder that has all these things in it is also now ready to be turned in and uploaded to the Print Center. And we have everything we need. We've got the InDesign file, we have the fonts that are needed for it, and that's all set. So as I said, there's two options for prepping a file that's been created in InDesign. You can either export it as a PDF like I showed you, or you can take the file, do all the bleed extensions, get that all set, and then package the file and provide that folder with all the packaged elements, the InDesign file, links, fonts, whatever happens to be in there. So as I've said before, anytime that you're working in the Print Center or working with us in the Print Center, please feel free to ask us questions. We're more than happy to talk with you about how to set up files properly, how to get things prepped so that they print easily here and correctly and accurately. If you ever have a question about that, please feel free to come in and talk with either myself or one of the other print technicians. We would much rather work with you ahead of time and help you get your files set up easily and correctly the first time so that we can print them very accurately for you. So yeah, come talk to us. We'll make it happen. That's all I have to show for today. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon. All right, take care.